Other thing too, as far as like getting into the church, this is why I think God in his wisdom had it set up kind of that checks and balances, elders and evangelists.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of got that leadership checks and balance thing, because it's important, especially when you're making bigger decisions in the church, not to have it just fall on one person.
Yeah.
Right? Because if it goes bad,
Right.
then it all falls on that one person. But if you can say, hey, us as like the 6 leaders of this church, we sat down, maybe like whatever it is, like it's not our expertise on something, so we looked at people in the church who had an expertise in that topic, and we talked to them before we made our decision. We did research, we did this. Like sometimes you can't foresee everything, right? You can't tell the future. So a decision might go bad or might go a little wary, but you still, when you look back on it, hindsight's 20/20, right? You still might say, well, I mean, what else was I supposed to do there?
Right.
You're like, I can't mitigate every variable in that situation.
I overthink like a champ, man.
Yeah.
I drive myself crazy. That's why I'm glad I'm not in some kind of faith tradition where I'm the grand poobah. I don't want that job.
What do they call that? The paralysis of analysis?
Yes, I have it. And what I have learned over the years is sometimes when I meet with other guys and bounce things off of people, I'm like, oh, wow. Mm-hmm. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. I would have done something really stupid if we didn't have a conversation. There's wisdom in that. There's safety in many counselors. It's like, bounce it off of people. Find out. Let other people share that with you.
And there's arrogance in the concept that like, oh, well, I'm the leader here. I'll make that decision.
Yeah, right. I'm the guy. Right? Yeah. I'm the alpha.
I was just thinking about, shower thoughts, right? Mm-hmm. Like I don't know why. It's just like one of those shower thought moments I had the other day when I was thinking about some of the guys in the Old Testament. Like when you read, like when the kings came along in Israel's history, and you think about the good kings and the bad kings. And I'm like, it'd be cool to like have a sermon about the unknown leaders during that time. And I don't mean like kind of like the lesser known. I mean like the ones that aren't named. So you're clearly kind of implying or reading in. But like, okay, so you got a bad king. Well, what about the counselors? What about the priests during that time? What about the elders of Israel during that time? Like, where were they? Where were the prophets at? Like, who's standing up and talking against him? And so clearly in the Old Testament, like, yeah, you had kings who might become more totalitarian than others, but the system was still where they had counselors, they had the priest, they had elders of the tribes, whatever. Like there was still a checks and balances if they wanted it, and probably even like they had it, but they could, they could trump it, be like, well, I'm the king, I'll do what I want.
Right.
But the concept there is like, okay, so all the weight falls on that guy for, Israel going bad at this moment. But what about everybody else? Like, what were they doing to stop him? Because it's not like one person has all the power. Like, clearly, how many kings got assassinated? Because like they just went so bad that people were like, all right, yeah, we can't have this anymore. We're just gonna take him out.
That's a rough job. Man.
Put some new king in. So like, as a man getting into ministry, you can't think that everything's just gonna be you. Like that's not the way God set it up, because we're all infallible, or we're all fallible. We're not infallible. So you can't have that arrogance. I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and if you have any sense, you'll learn to be humble over time, because you'll make enough mistakes. You'll be like, whoa.
Yeah, so if you're going to get into ministry, let me tell you what right now, do not have thin skin.
Yeah.
Whatever you need to do right now, if you have thin skin, you need to work on getting the friends that you have around you to pick on you right now, to thicken that skin up, to make it more like leather, because if you come in with paper thin skin, man, you're going to burn out.
You're absolutely right. When I first told my home church that I wanted to go into ministry, the preacher there at the time told me basically what you just said. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Because I had no idea. And then you're like, he was on point, as you are right now. That's exactly true. You do have to thicken that skin up a little bit, toughen up.
People love, and I mean, I guess this is leadership in general, but people always criticize the leader's decision.
I think in the church, too, people feel sometimes empowered because it's kind of safe. Like if you go with your boss, like at the shipyard or the military or the department, you might get fired. But what's going to happen if you go with me, right? I mean, it's like you can say what you want to say, and then people feel like that. And I say that, because maybe somebody from Olivet's watching right now. They're like, what, man? No, I really don't have a lot of that. I have in the past at different times in different places. It happens. where people feel like they can just say whatever. But so you really do need the thick skin, because we don't have that, it's like I can fire, okay, you're fired, you can't come back to church next Sunday. I mean, that doesn't happen.
This is one of the things that I talked about. I can't remember who I was talking to. We were just talking about leadership in general. I said, if you think about it, the guys who are leaders in like a church, and I mean, I know there's other nonprofit organizations, volunteers and stuff like that, but that's my experience at church, is that it's a harder way to lead than if you're a leader like in the military or something like that. Because you could pull rank.
Absolutely.
Right? You could be like, okay, I heard you. Now keep your mouth shut and do your job.
Right.
I'm tired of it. Like, we're done. Conversation's over. Try that in a church.
Right.
Watch that membership go down.
Exactly.
And I mean, but it's true though, and you shouldn't do that. I mean, that's not, the Bible says we don't lord it over.
Exactly. You need to be savvy, man. You have to hear people out. You have to lovingly lead. You got to try to see their concerns, because maybe you are making a mistake.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've done dumb things three times or more.
A couple, 3 times that I know of.
I've done a few
that I'm willing to admit.
Yeah, exactly.